Welcome, everybody, to the April 2023 Online Coffee with Devon. I am always so grateful to see all of you. I'm so grateful you take time out of your busy days to connect with me in this round table of people who are using their intuitive abilities, doing light work, and working together to go through the ascension process. It's always my honor to connect with you. And I like to open these coffees with messages from the angels to kind of give us something to start discussing. And if you haven't seen the April angel messages, they are up on my YouTube channel. And these are meant to be a continuation, kind of an update to those messages to help you clarify some things since we are now almost to the middle of April. I can hardly believe it. And it kind of helps you to use that hindsight. You know, I always recommend hindsight. And this way you can hear these messages and see if that helps clarify anything that's going on for you. Or like I say, you know, you never know when there's messages that's going to be there for you later on. I do put these messages on YouTube later. You may have to give me a couple days to get it up there. I try to do it the same afternoon, but you just never know what's going to come up. And I won't put the video portion of our discussion, so no need to worry about that. The only video part will be me sharing these angel messages and maybe a wrap up, but I will keep your privacy intact. In fact, I won't use your names either if you do not want me to. So just let me know. If you want to, though, you can share about the work you're doing. You can share about where you are offering services, whatever it is that you have to offer, if you're a light worker or any other kind of work. So keep that in mind too, as we're going through this, because that something with these messages may resonate with you and prompt you to go ahead and do that. So again, remember, and I know many of you know this, you hear me say it all the time, but it's part of my prayer protection. I always ask for these messages to reach you when it's in your highest interest. I say a prayer protection before connecting with the angels to make sure I'm only connecting with God's highest vibrational beings, and the messages be for the highest good of those who come across them. Angels will not tell us what to do. They never want us to give our power away. So because this is a group message, if something doesn't resonate, just simply leave it behind. It may be for someone else. Or it could be that you're not ready to hear the message yet because some new information needs to come in. However, if something does resonate with you, you know, I'm going to encourage you to write it down because I always talk about hindsight being one of the most powerful tools to building your connection with the angels. I have my custom journal I released last year, Book of Evidence. You can use your own journal, anything you have, but I do encourage you to write it down because you're giving your future self a gift. You're giving your higher self a gift when you give your heart a voice by writing it down. Putting pen to paper really helps you to do that. So I hope you've got your pen and paper with you now so you can take notes about anything that resonates with you. So jumping into the angel messages right away, the first thing the angels wanted to address with you is they do see the way you're questioning whether the skilled work you've been implementing is going to be rewarded. They see the things you've been working on. They see the things you've been learning and studying. They see the way that you've gone back to school or taken classes or just dive deeper into information and education that you were really drawn to. And they see the way that you're kind of questioning, okay, now what do I do with this? Or even if you know what you want to do with this, you're questioning whether you're on the right path, whether you're going to get recognition for this. And they want you to pay attention because they understand that you are feeling this way and they have some guidance for you about this. And this is very normal. A lot of us are feeling this way. I'm hearing this from other clients as well. So if you are questioning what you're going to be doing with all this hard work and all these skills and knowledge you've acquired, here comes some guidance for you on that, and trust that you are on the divine path. You are in divine flow as always. They recognize too that one of the challenges you are aware of is that maybe you're needing to revise some of your plans. Maybe there's more things going on subconsciously and you're trying to figure out what that is. Or maybe there's been a time in the past where you've tried to implement these plans and it's just been poor timing. The things were not in alignment that needed to be. There were, like I said, things going on behind the scenes you weren't aware of. And so yes, right now, the biggest challenge a lot of us are facing is we're having to revise some of our plans. The good news is coming up very soon, for those of you who follow astrology, we have Mercury going retrograde. I hear a lot of groans about that a lot out in the general public, but the truth is this can be a very productive time because, again, talking about plans that need revision, you can go back and review what you have done in the past, what's worked, what hasn't, and see the way that these things can help you now to change them a little bit, tinker with them a little bit, and be ready for when Mercury goes direct to get back out there. I personally find it to be a really great time to go back through old projects that I've put on the back burner. I also love reorganizing closets and drawers just to get the clutter out of here, get those dust bunnies out from under your bed. Like I always like to remind you, I have to remind myself, it's for me too. But I do really encourage you to take advantage of that energy that's coming up after the new moon eclipse. I believe it's April 21st or 22nd that Mercury goes retrograde, but we're already in the shadow. So if you're already feeling that urge to revise some plans, reorganize things, let the energy guide you. These things don't happen overnight. So if you're starting to feel that way, follow it. Because what they want you to know that you're unaware of is that this is going to bring you new ideas. You're going to find a new level of inspiration from revising plans, reviewing things, taking a look to see if you did listen to the April messages, you heard this, the overall messages that if you've been finding yourself bored or just feeling like you're at a stalemate with the project, that's because probably your heart needs a different perspective or view to love it again. It may be that you still love it, but your heart is going, I'm bored with the way we're doing this. And I think that sometimes we get set in a pattern of, okay, this is the way it has to be done. But don't forget, we're in this really innovative energy now. And so just because this is the way someone else did it, doesn't mean it's the way you're meant to do it. So open up your mind and heart to the ideas of doing something differently, and make sure your heart is still in touch with doing that project. I know for me personally, and we can discuss this more when we get to the roundtable, but if I find a lot of resistance to something, it could be the approach I'm taking, but sometimes it's because my heart's really not into it anymore. I've learned what I needed to from that, and it's time to move on. And they also want to commend you how in the past, you have really tried to take some of your new ideas and implement them. And you have shown the universe that you have confidence in yourself. You have stood up and said, I am this, whatever that is for you. And you've begun to really bring in that energy, that law of attraction energy, by saying, this is what I want to do. This is what my heart wants. And this is bringing a happy outcome for you, and income possibly for you, if that's what you're looking for. So remember that, because the angels do see when you stand up and you say, I am whatever that is for you. Even if it's just something that you're working on internally, maybe this is not something with the external world. You're working on your own self-love. You're working on your confidence in your intuitive abilities, doing what it takes to let God know, ask the angels in to support you and saying, I am highly intuitive. I do deserve love. So what they want you to be aware of right now with this energy is that you are going through a lot of spiritual growth, and you are going to have to trust the way you are being guided to a new home. Now, when I say a new home, this doesn't necessarily mean you're selling your house and moving to a new home, or you're moving apartments. This means where you feel you belong. This is what this energy is. So really listen to your heart, really listen to the signs that are coming through for you, because a lot of this is going to come through your emotions. You're going to feel like you are falling in love all over again with yourself, with your future, and where you're going. Also, they want you to know that some of your relationships that are coming in for you, or relationships you're in right now, have an opportunity to really grow through your spiritual work, through using your enhanced intuition, and you're going to find, again, a new home within that. So if you've been looking for a new home, then I would definitely check in with your intuition, ask the angels for guidance. But if you're also looking for where you belong in your community, where you belong doing your light work, where you belong within your family, what is your role there, then I would trust what's coming in through you intuitively with that, because they are saying there's a lot going on for you with finding a new home. What's coming up for you is that we're going to have to really be careful to let these relationships develop to a new level. Let our relationship with our new home, with our partners, with our loved ones, let them evolve naturally. And again, take a tender-hearted, compassionate approach. You are highly empathic. You are taking on the energies of others. So we're going to have to really try to bring in that patient energy, try to be really loving. And you do have to care for yourself and others. So make sure you're taking lots of time for that self-care, because as others are experiencing this energy where they're being taken to a new home, to a new level, to where they belong, they may react in ways that are hard for us to take on. And it can be so challenging, I know personally, to go into a patient and loving space when you feel like you're being attacked within your own home, within your own space. So that's why they're saying, pay attention to where you might feel like you need a new home within your community, or where you belong doing your spiritual work, where you feel safe. Or at least if you are feeling like all these energies are too hard on you, you can step away and go find that new space for you to just get centered, get peaceful again. Where you are going to get most of your personal power is going to be from reflecting on your big life experiences. Any kind of significant life events you're going through right now or have gone through in the past are going to be where your personal power is coming from. You are going to see some powerful revelations by reviewing those things, and it's going to make you feel like you're ready to go ahead and spread those wings. So again, going back to the Mercury retrograde is going to bring you new ideas, which again, like I say, a lot of the social media out there makes you think that you should just stop everything you're doing when Mercury is in retrograde, or some other planets are as well. Well, let's just ignore those memes for now and trust that reviewing what you're doing, reorganizing things, revising plans is going to bring you new ideas, especially if you incorporate your life experiences, things that you've gone through in the past that brought you to where you are right now. It's very important too that we're taking lots of time to enjoy life's little luxuries with our loved ones, with those around us, spending quiet time alone, but also spending quiet time with our loved ones, and trusting that this is bringing us to where we want to go. Again, those of you who are on here early heard the prompt. The prompt we have to discuss today in Online Coffee for our round table is related to this guidance right here, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But I wanted you to know that if you stay very focused on where you're going with the idea that revising something is actually going to help you get there faster, instead of looking at it like you're having to go all the way back to the very beginning, look at it as you're going to keep what's working and you're going to let go what's not, and you're going to use this reviewing, revising energy to help you find new ideas and new inspiration, so you feel fresh again, you feel ready to work on it. Now, you may find that sudden things are coming in for you that are going to need your immediate attention over the rest of this month, really through the end of May. Things are going to start coming up quickly. You're going to have to act quickly. And the guidance here is to make sure you are using your intuition. We had that guidance in March as well. Before you jump in and run with the herd over to one location or one opinion, make sure you're pausing, checking in with your intuition, seeing if that really is in alignment with what you want. But there probably are going to be some things where time is of the essence. So make sure you're thinking things through clearly. If a sudden opportunity, a sudden offer comes in, taking even just a few moments alone to breathe, connect with the angels, and ask if it's in your highest interest to take that opportunity. Ultimately, where we are all headed right now is a beautiful place where we know we are going to get contentment, joy. We're going to feel gratitude for the work we're doing. We're going to see that reflected in the world around us. So trust that energy coming in for you. Trust that you will find success and you will be commended for a job well done. Now, I like to give you something to do with all this guidance right now, because that's a lot. That's why I started recording it. I think it was sometime last June or July that I finally started recording these events, even though we've been doing them since 2019, because people wanted to review the messages. Understandably, there's a lot of information coming through. So what you can do right now to start activating this energy is to really focus on where can you see progress that has been made, and where can you revise things? So just reiterating that you may need to go ahead and collaborate with someone. You may need to confront a situation head on. Maybe there's something you have to face and you're avoiding a confrontation. Of course, we're going to try to do that with a compassionate approach. We're going to be mindful of the fact that we are empathic. We need to protect our energy, but it is going to be good for you to go ahead and speak your mind and seize the day. Let the world know what your heart wants. That may even be something you want to do on today's coffee. Coming up for us, we may need to ask for help from others. We may need to get support doing some of the things we're doing. And again, with this relates to the journaling prompt, we want to be careful that we're not all work and no play, making sure we're taking lots of time this entire year to take breaks from our work, even if it's our spiritual work. And I'm not saying we don't do our spiritual practice every day, but if you have a passion project related to your intuitive abilities, your light work, your projects you're sharing with the world, you still need to have time where you're stepping completely away from that and doing something else you love. And that's going to bring in new ideas. So make sure you're not overcommitting. You're not shouldering all the work on yourself. Be willing to say no if you are going into some collaborative projects or team efforts. Be willing to say no to others when they're wanting your time and you feel you need it to be alone or be quiet, but also, of course, in a compassionate way. Just ensure you're taking time to relax and be careful you're not doing too much. And then for the long term, we are going to have so much to celebrate. So focus on the fact that you are bringing in a contented personal life. You are going to be able to make plans with your eyes on the long term as long as you have patience and trust that things are unfolding in the way they are meant to. So again, anything that's needing revision, anything that needs to be redone is ultimately in your highest interest. And this will bring you satisfaction in your home life, in your work life, in all areas of your life. You'll feel much more content if you know you are taking time. Just remember to notice any premonitions that are coming in for you and rise to the occasion, seize the day, speak up for yourself in a heartfelt place. Finally, I'll wrap up with, I like to do a keyword now, but the time they gave us 2 keywords and they were pace yourself. And this was the ultimate prompt for today. So we don't want to burn up all of our energy at once. We want to be able to have stamina for the long term. So make sure you're being realistic with your efforts and the timelines you are setting for yourself and the time and energy you're putting into this. Sometimes we get so eager, we volunteer for things that we're not quite ready for, or we put a deadline on ourselves that isn't very realistic. All right, that wraps up the angel messages for this month's online coffee. So let's get started with the chat. As always, I will begin calling on each of you as we go around if your video is on. If your video is off, I'll assume you are just here to listen, or you can put something in the comments. If you'd like to speak up without your video on, you're welcome to do that. Just try to let me know in the comments. And if everybody else could watch the comments too, sometimes I can't always see them if somebody's chiming in there. I admire that. We do try to make this a fluid discussion, but I will go to the person I see on the screen first, and then I'll open it up to see if anybody has any comments on that. And so let's get to the monthly prompt so we can get talking. All right. So what is a tool, or what are some tools that you use to pace yourself? How do you make sure you are maintaining a balance between work and play? So what is a tool you use to pace yourself, and how do you make sure you are maintaining a balance between work and play? And also, you hear me talk about the 3 main areas of your life: your romance and other relationships, your finance and career, and your health and fitness. We want to make sure we're balanced in all 3 areas. So this could even apply to that, where maybe, I know I'm guilty of putting off my workout routine because I feel like I have so much work to get done. But if I make it a priority to get my workout in, I have a much better workflow later on when I'm sitting at my desk. So I'll just share with you before we start going around the table that, I try to plan breaks in my day where I can be alone, I can get grounded. I have rules about when I will allow myself to work. Of course, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule if there's like an important deadline or there's an issue that needs to be dealt with. But one of the things is a very high priority to me is being a mother. So that means being able to be home and be present with my kids when they're home, either in the evenings or on weekends. And yes, occasionally there are work things that need to be addressed, but I try to do that within a framework there. Also, really paying attention to when did I take an entire day off from work? Sometimes I'll sit there and wake up and start working right away because I know there's something I need to do, and I pause and I remember I got to go to my spiritual practice, do that. But I've taken entire days to be out in my garden recently with some of the amazing weather we've had in this spring weather, and just not looked at anything for work to just give myself that full break. So I am so excited to hear what everybody has to share with this prompt today. And I do want to say a quick reminder about next month's coffee. It will be May 10th. It's the second Wednesday of every month. If you want to go ahead and mark that. Also, if you hadn't had a chance to sign up for my free 5-day journaling challenge, please do that. You'll get an angel message in your inbox every day that prompts you to journal and helps you understand the way you're getting messages from the angels. And then finally, a lot of you have found me this way already, but if you didn't know, I work with an amazing astrology service created by Sensei Christopher Witecki called Serious Joy. If you want to go check out seriousjoy.com for only $3.99 for the first month, it's this amazing guided service that helps you understand your chart. It guides you step by step through the manifestation process, through the self-love process, and it's an amazing community. All right, so much to learn about that if you log in there, but let's get started with the round table now and this discussion. The first person on my screen is Benito. Hey, Benito, how are you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Very good. Good to see you. Glad you're here.
Good to see you all. I guess a tool would be for, like you were talking about, like you have to have alone time. I definitely have to have alone time, and music really helps. Like I can listen to something throughout the day, or I'll hear something and it'll kind of steer me toward I need alone time. And it doesn't necessarily have to be vocalized. It could just be like a tune. I'll hear a noise or hear a specific note, and that will kind of push me, kind of guides me to, okay, I need some time today, or I need alone time, or I need to connect with somebody too, or I need to be doing something so that will push me.
Do you have certain music that you listen to for that, or just whatever you feel in the moment for?
Pretty much what I feel in the moment for. Sometimes I will need, like when I get that alone time, I'll need something soft, or, I'm an intense guy, I like intense music. So sometimes if it's really loud or really hard, that'll also push me. It's like, oh, I need to be doing this today. I've got this energy to be able to get this output. So I need to be doing this.
That's a really good reminder. And that's something I do as well. I'll go on YouTube and find just healing frequency music or something. I'll just pick something different every day that I'm drawn to. And, they have those tracks that are like 12 hours long. So
Right.
You can sit there and just put it on in the background. But then there are days that I need something that really gets me going. And then I realize, wow, I really needed to move my body, or I needed to just get away from certain energies. Yeah, that's really, really good reminder there. It's a good way to pace yourself, you're saying.
Yes. For me, it really helps. And I've known that for a very long time, but I haven't paid attention to it till, I don't know, maybe the last 5 years. But
Yeah.
for sure, it really does steer me.
So much help in grounding there, help in healing there. And I love the way it's all connected through numbers, because it's at a vibration, which is a number again. And we're always talking about the way God is talking to us through numbers. Well, that's wonderful, Sherry. What's going on with you personally? What else did you want to talk about today? Have you had any big intuitive experiences or stories you wanted to share?
I had a really strange dream last night. I haven't had time to really dig into it, but I'll probably do it after this, because I was shown a map, or the concept of a map. I've got some symbolism that I also saw in there that I need to dig into. I don't know what everybody else has been experiencing. It'd be interesting to hear like what everybody's seeing in their dream state. But and then I saw a country that was mentioned. I've seen some people in this dream, so it's very, very intense. I could talk about it for a while, but and it's a great discussion. Sometimes I think we need a second monthly event just to talk about dreams, because I get so many messages and symbols, and I know many of us do in this community. Now that you say that, I did have a dream about a location last night. I haven't had a chance to journal about it either and see kind of all the things I was processing there, but I was definitely up above a city looking down and getting some information and energy from that. So very interesting. Yeah, I'd love to hear if anybody else has something they want to share to that. Did you have anything else you wanted to share before we open it up to feedback on that? No, I'm just curious to see what everybody else has to say too.
Anybody else have some dreams they want to share about, or things that they've been getting intuitively? I don't know if somebody's in the chat there. I can't read the chat right now. I'm sorry. I have my screen too low if anybody else wants to mention that. But yeah, my dreams were, some of them were definitely processing things with my family, with my kids, just recent events. But then there's a different feel that the symbolic dreams take on for me. And it's almost like I'm up above watching things happen, so Very, very cool. Well, if you guys think of anything you want to share as we're going around, we can always go back to this. I could talk about dreams for a very long time. And what else has been going on with you, Benito? How's I know you're an astrologer, you do all kinds of other work. Anything new going on with you there?
I just did a reading here the other day, and it was impromptu, but she wanted a reading, so I was able to get that done for her.
Well, that's great. Well, let us know in the chat where people can connect with you if they want a reading. And have you decided how you're going to start implementing any of that? Just offering services, or
be honest,
what is your latest feeling on that?
I've been bouncing ideas off of a couple of different people, and it seems like it's been working out for me, because I'm wondering about doing dreams, actually, dream interpretation plus astrology plus human design plus tarot. Because I don't know many people doing that. It's probably not wise to share that, but maybe somebody could pick up the idea and start doing it. But yeah, because I would figure something like people don't do that often. I don't think they combine a lot of it, and I understand that dream interpretation is very wide, right? People can dream something similar, but it means something very personal to each person. So, but I think that'd be kind of an interesting gig to be trying to interpret that, and then maybe look at the astrology at the time and say, hey, this is what could be going on, or maybe look at what's going on out in the world, and
and I happen to know, since we're friends, a little bit about your chart, and it would make sense that you would get a lot of intuitive information that way. And, I think that sometimes it's helpful just to share dreams with somebody else and let them say what they think, because I think it can give you a perspective you hadn't thought of. Of course, I would always encourage you to share it with somebody who's not going to laugh at you or tell you that's a waste of time to tell me. I don't want to hear about your dream. But I do think that there are online groups that will do dream discussion. And I may have shared this on the last online coffee, but I had a chance in 2018 to go to a dream yoga workshop with my teacher, Andrew Holacek. It was so fun. It was out in Sedona, and it was all people who love to geek out about talking about their dreams. And so we spent an entire week talking about dreams, and, he teaches all these methods to help you trigger lucid dreams so that you can meditate in your dream. And it was really fun to be in a space where everybody wanted to talk about dreams and you could share. So that's definitely something I would keep following. I wouldn't, discount that at all as something that you could bring in.
I guess that could also be used as a tool as well. I wouldn't necessarily think of it that way, but and I don't know how many other people have done this, but I used to keep a dream journal, and it would be the longest one I had was a year and a half, right? And I've done it for maybe 2.5, 3 years, just not all at the same time. But that also seemed to have helped, because it would also, I could reference it and see, I could write it down that day. It's like, man, I just saw this. Maybe this is what I need to be doing. So maybe that could also be used as a tool, like keeping a dream journal and keeping track of what you're seeing out there.
Right. I think it's really good. And I learned a tip years ago that I probably said on here, but I'm sure I have, but just as a reminder, treat your dream like as if you were giving it a movie title. And that will really help you too, especially if you don't have time to go into a deep understanding of the dream right away. Because, we're always busy. We have things come up. We get phone calls. People need us. And it's like, I was just sitting down to write 3 pages about that dream, and then I didn't get to it for a week. If I can at least come up with the title, that will bring back so much of the dream for me. So you could also do that way. If for those of you who are resistant to spending a lot of time journaling, even just putting a title and just the basics, like my mom was there, my cat was there, whatever, I felt like I was in Texas, whatever it is for you in that dream, just the tiniest little summary can help bring back all the details later when, like you said, Benito, you're going through your day and something happens very similar. And I've certainly had a lot of premonition dreams myself. Many people do around the world, but we are conditioned to ignore them. We're conditioned to think, oh, that didn't, that was just me processing something from the day before, which sometimes that is. Sometimes it's a movie you just saw and your brain's trying to figure out what to do with it. But, the more you track it, the more you realize the difference between a premonition and something that's just your brain processing. So yes, very good reminder there. Great. Well, thank you.
I love Dream Talk. Oh, this is amazing.
Well, we can keep going with that for sure, Christy. I'm glad. Did you have anything you wanted to share with Benito about that before we keep going?
Yeah, Benito, I do a little bit of dream incubation with my astrology readings, and I think it's a really great way to build a connection, especially if it's a new client that you haven't ever met before, because there's something in there that connects it, right? That connects the dots. And then it starts up a whole different conversation for me with my clients about their spiritual path and where they're going. And for me, the important things in getting myself to be able to remember my dreams are, even if I don't remember anything about the dream, the emotion, when I wake up, writing that down right away, like, oh, I felt comfortable in that dream. And sometimes that will spur the rest of the dream for me. And also setting the intention to remember it, which sounds silly, but I really had to do that before I would start remembering my dreams. Just thinking as I was falling asleep that I was going to remember and write it down. It's always that second part, remember it and write it down. So for those of you who are wanting to remember your dreams, those were a couple of things that worked for me.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really good reminder. And those things have worked for me as well. And Christy, can you, for those who may not understand what you meant by drink incubation, are you saying you're connecting before the reading and doing that? Okay. Do you want to share what you mean by that?
So it's just a dream incubation where essentially I'll just ask that person's guides, of course, for permission first. And then if they have any messages that they want this person to know before our reading or during our reading. And then I try to write everything down. And I've had instances where I didn't get anything and their guides say, basically, they're really good dreamers. They don't really need your help.
Wow.
So that was kind of the most fun message that I got. And she's like, yes, I am.
That's really helpful. Thank you. Appreciate it. Benito, did you want to respond or add anything?
It's interesting you do it for the readings. It's been on my mind. Like I said, I've been talking to a couple of different people back and forth about that. Because I think dreams are massive. Like we all do it. And I've encountered some people that claim they've never dreamed before. Whether, they say that, or they say that their dreams are either lackluster or they don't hardly dream, and they say in 10 years, they might remember half a dozen dreams. And to me, that's mind boggling. I can't wrap my head around that because mine's been so profuse. Like it happens all the time. Every night I go to sleep, it's out of a month. I can probably go 20, 25 days, right. And have a dream. And every so often, I can't remember it, or I'll have a dream and then I can't remember, you wake up and it's just fleeting so quickly. You can barely write it down or record it. So no, that's very interesting.
Yeah, that's great. And it is true that I'll have something that will stay with me for several days. And it's not for another 6 months that I understand the meaning of it. And then there are times where I'll just get a little tiny glimpse of something. So what Chrissy said about remembering the emotion, I have a lot of clients that will tell me they don't dream or they don't remember their dreams. And so I have them start, like you said, Chrissy, with setting the intention, but then also rating your mood or your emotions, trying to figure out what you're feeling before you go to bed, and then noticing how you feel when you come out of sleep. Even keeping a notepad by your bed and just giving yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, how do I feel right now, can be really helpful. A couple of weeks ago, I could tell I was doing a lot of work in my sleep because I was getting 12-hour nights of sleep nonstop, not waking up at all, and still feeling so lethargic the entire day, very heavy physically. And I finally connected about that with the angels, trying to figure out, I was like, I'm not getting sick. I don't have any symptoms. Everything in my normal routine is fine. And I'm doing work in my dreams. That's what it was. And I'm just tired when I wake up. And then once I kind of wrap that up and I put some protection around that, it went away. So that's another thing to think about physically, how we're feeling too. So yeah, really great tips there. Well, thanks, Benito. Feel free to chime in as we move along with anybody else. I see Melanie on my screen next. Hey, Melanie.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, that is fine. Has anybody just had like crazy dreams for like the last 2 months, like in particular? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been hearing it from so many people, and I myself am, and I'm trying to write down what I can, but sometimes it's so much that I would rather just write okay, the people in the dream, I'd rather just do bullet points because it's almost too exhausting to sit there and try to write it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it used to be like you'd have a dream and you'd like write like every few days and you'd write something down and be like this nice little concise story. And now it's just like, it's too much. It's too many things happen, too much. You wake up, you're still tired. You just walk away from it. So I don't know what's going on with that, but it's been so intense.
Yes, very much. You are not alone in that. And I think some of it probably has to do with Saturn moving into Pisces. I don't know. I do sometimes try to relate it to the planets, but at the same time, way before I was an astrologer, I was getting all these dreams at all kinds of times. So it's kind of hard to relate it to a particular transit or anything going on. But it is really interesting to hear when everybody else is getting it in an even bigger way. So definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, something, I hope not forever. I don't know. Maybe this is just a new speed. I'm not really sure.
Well, I did, I know you have some great insight as always, but I wanted to say one more thing too. When I was first really understanding my dreams, doing dream interpretation, I had a mentor say, you can ask not to be shown certain things. Which of course, once you tell me I can't do something, then I want it, right? So that I'm like, no, but I want to see all the premonitions in the world. And she said, well, think of it from the perspective of if it's upsetting you that much, then you can say, only show me the things that I can do something about, or only show me the things that are going to help me or help my loved ones. And that way it's a little bit more of a filter. And then as you grow, if you do want to be shown something that's happening on the other side of the world, just so that you can validate your intuition or validate what you're getting, then you can open up to that. So that's another thing to keep in mind, Melanie. If you're needing a break, you could just say, please only show me what I need to know tonight.
Yeah. Oh, when I was thinking like off of that, like just asking, like, please, can we just slow it down a little?
Yeah.
Like just asking for that.
A little slower, please.
Yeah.
I love it.
So I can remember some of it. Although it feels like it's just processing a whole bunch of stuff. So maybe it doesn't matter right now. I don't know.
I do think once we kind of open the door to it, our angels and guides are like, more, like, she gets it. Let's send her more. And so, yeah, you could just ask to dial it down a little, slow it down, just validate it.
Yeah.
Really good point. Yeah. Love it.
I mean, I love the question of how to pace myself because I'm really bad at that. And it's interesting because like my teaching is sort of slowed down now, and the transition is interesting because I feel like you want to like, you don't want to, but you want to like maintain the stress level you had before. So you find other things that you didn't really need to be doing to try to recreate the way it used to be. And so I'm trying to let go of that. I don't have a lot of really good techniques, except I do set a timer when I do work, and I make like when the alarm goes off, I walk away because that's my best plan at the moment. Because I have, a lot of trouble with that and waiting, patience, all of that stuff.
That makes sense. And you reminded me when you were talking about the pace too, from slowing down. It reminded me of like at the end of final exams in school, it's like you would work so hard to get through that point. And then when it was over, it was almost like a letdown. It's like, what's wrong? Well, I don't really want to have an exam on the agenda, but at the same time, like you said, you've gotten yourself up into this, adrenal rush where you're going, I have to do this, and I remember this. And then when it's gone, it's like, now what do I replace that with? And it's that coming down off of that process that can be a little jarring. It can almost be sad. You know what I mean? Like you can almost get like a little bit of depression from it. I remember over the time. Yeah.
It's that idea of change, right? And you're like, This is good. I want this. I don't have to be as stressed out, but it's like, but remember how like, that's what you're used to. So maybe you need to recreate it and like that whole piece. And like, I finished the book I was writing and then like sent it out to readers. Congratulations. And then I'm like, well, now what do I do with myself?
Oh
so
my goodness.
There's like a lot of waiting and trying to relax that I'm working on.
Wow. Well, congratulations on that. And I certainly can relate to that rush of getting it out the door. And then now what? And if you can plan other small wins in your day for a while, that can be helpful too. Cause I know when we're all here, cause we're super creative and we're here expressing through the divine. And so that's a rush in and of itself. But I have found that having like other small successes, for example, getting all my tomato plants in the ground, that gave me this like small win that I can look out the window at the end of the day and feel like there's another accomplishment I did, but it didn't take me, a year or 2 years to get to it. So I can certainly relate. Thank you for that share.
Yeah.
It's a good
being
reminder.
being more than one thing, right? But like
Right.
sometimes it's hard. But
Yeah.
one thing. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a really good reminder. So what else has been going on with you? Did you want to share any intuitive experiences, or do you want to share about your book or anything else that's been going on?
I mean, the book it's fiction, but it's the main character is basically an empath, but it's hidden because I wanted to explore that idea in a way where people wouldn't really know what I was doing.
Wow.
And all the people who are reading it are people who are not really in the spiritual community. So I'm kind of curious to see their responses to that type of character. So it's quite, it's been sort of an interesting experiment that's felt very helpful, because you have to constantly think, how would an empath deal with this kind of situation? And like, what is that like? Which is helpful for me to reflect on my life.
Wow.
But also it'll be interesting to see how people take it, because it's sort of hidden and kind of not hidden and all the rest of it within the story. So
you're an author and a scientist. You're conducting an experiment as well and getting all this information for us in the spiritual community. You can come share it with us. A
little bit, right?
I love it. Well, I'm excited. Well, definitely once it's published and out there, you better let us know, and we'd love to go read it and support you. We love doing that for each other here. I'm really excited for you. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I feel like this has been part of like what has incubated that
wonderful
for me. And it's just been really nice having something like that in my life.
Yeah, that's great. Wonderful. Anything else that you wanted to share or ask before we move on?
I'm trying to think if there's been anything intuitive, but nothing really. Although I did have this interesting, and this is just one of those like weird life synchronicities, but my dog passed away last year, I think. And this year, a friend asked me to dog sit for her. And I deal with like the loss and all the rest of it. And the dog that I dog sat for was born on the day that my dog died.
Oh, wow.
Which seems bizarre, but and I told her that, and she's a scientist, and she was like, whatever. But but it was like I think there is this like thing, a healing that happens when you've lost something, and then when you sort of come back around, like this interesting spiral that I thought was quite interesting. To have that dog come into my life at that point. And it was really nice.
Was it fun to interact that way without having the pressure to connect with your own animal?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And also like this interesting part, because like I know a lot of people when they lose a pet, like they go out immediately and get another pet because they're like, my heart hurts and all. And I like tried really hard and I didn't do that. Because it's, I don't know, like I think you end up with the pet that you need at that time, right? Like that's a spirit that's coming into your life for a particular purpose. And like the journey that I had with my dog, that was a particular journey, and that journey is done now. And like, I don't want to, you can't replace that anyway. And like, it just sort of, I did a lot of reflecting, playing with somebody else's dog. And then I like the idea of being a dog sitter for her. I think that's perfect for me at this particular point. Yeah. But also just interesting to be in that animal energy too, because they're so different and they bring all this stuff into your house. And they like, I remember hearing one spiritual teacher talk about how they move all the energy in the lower part of your house where you don't spend a lot of time, and like just get things flowing. And I thought that was really interesting. So yeah, it was a good experience.
That's a really good, we could have a whole nother coffee as well on that. Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm similar to you in the way that when I go through the loss of an animal, I have to grieve for a pretty long time. But one exception was when my cat of 15 years passed. I knew I had wanted to get my daughter kittens, and they found us. I do believe our animals find us. Yeah. And it was so interesting because I tried to actively go look for kittens, went on adoption websites, reached out to some foster moms I knew and see things. And I was like, not our cats, not our cats. I gave up. I mean, I journaled about it. I had communicated with my cat before he passed about helping us call them in, but that I basically gave up. And 72 hours later, out of the blue, I get a text from a friend who says, this is probably too soon. I don't even know if you're looking. If you're mad at me for sending you this, I'm sorry, but I'm adopting a kitten tomorrow, and then the foster mom needs the others adopted as soon as possible. And those have been our 2 heart kitties that have been glued to each of my, I mean, they were definitely designed for each of my daughters, and they've brought me so much healing. And it was kind of like dog sitting in a way. It's like when they were with their mamas, my daughters, then I could have that break to myself to kind of grieve. But then they're, kittens and puppies are so high vibration that even in my saddest moment, I'm just like soaking up the vibration of, you know, and they know what they're doing. It's fascinating. So yeah, really, really good topic there. An interesting note, I did have a dream about dog sitting my friend's dog like 2 nights ago. So we were supposed to have the discussion here too. Dreams and dog sitting and animals. So
all connected.
Yeah. And I always just say I trust my animals will find me when it's time. And sometimes, just like you said, being around your friends' animals, it helps with the healing. It's like a safe amount of healing, right? And then you can go back to your space. So yeah, really good share. Thank you for reminding us of that. Does anybody have any input before we move on to Lady K? All right. Hey, Lady K, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing so good. I'm gonna say about the dreams that last night was rough. I feel like I was in a battle. About what? I don't know, but I chose not to work out yesterday because I didn't want to be super sore. But I'm starting to get in that habit. And yet I woke up feeling like I had this tremendous workout. And so like when you talked about dream titles, I was like laughing because I was like waging war on the other side, which I think is what we often do.
Yeah.
Like, I think believing in past lives, I think we sometimes I sometimes think that I call on my higher self, and I have to remember that I'm not living past lives where I was burned at the stake for speaking up or whatever those storylines were. But I could definitely explore through the hypnosis, quantum healing, like Dolores Cannon's thing. And I did one time. It just wasn't, my ego got in the way. But like that's not the life I'm living now. But it just made me realize that I think sometimes our higher self calls on the self that the Lady K that I am now. And I just hadn't thought about that like reverse scenario, that like I need me in other past lives because the time doesn't exist, right? So I definitely think dreams can be very therapeutic, and especially people who aren't as woke or don't believe in magic and don't believe in the mysticism. I don't want to say they choose not to have dreams, but we know for a fact that everyone dreams, and whether their spirit or self isn't meant to know that those dreams or those experiences, they still do the work on the other side every time we sleep, because without sleeping and without our subconscious, we would die.
Right.
Just like the ego, you can't get rid of it. But yeah, so yeah, I'm like everyone else here, I could talk about dreams and go on. And I love it when people tell me their dreams, because I can interpret them if they're open to it. Sometimes I'm like, I know exactly what that means, and they don't. See it that way.
Hear it. Yeah. It's funny. Yeah. I like what you just said about, whether they know it or not, or acknowledge it or not, they're dreaming and doing the work. Because when I learned that about it, it was a comfort to me, because I don't know about you guys, but I think we probably all have people in our lives who are not open to doing spiritual work, connecting with the divine. They're not open in the way we are. And we see them struggle. We see them hurting. We see them angry or anxious. And we just want them to know they're not alone, and they could just ask the angels, and they're just so shut down to it that it's almost like if you were to even suggest it, it would make it worse. Right. And that was where I had my peace come in with Well, they're doing it in their dream time. Their higher self knows what's happening. And it's very likely that they spent an entire life as a Buddhist monk and they're just here to do other things. That's another way of looking at it from that perspective. They came here just to be that super supportive bookkeeper at the company so that that business can have success, so that other people can get healing. And they don't want to hear about what the company does. They're just there to do the books and leave. And then at the end of the day, they're going home and sleeping and doing their spiritual work. So I just wanted to thank you for bringing that up, because that was a comfort to me when I was first trying to figure out, what do you do with these people you love and care about so much who don't want to hear about it, yet you see them struggling. So, and it's their journey, right?
Yeah, it's so true. And I'm like, it goes in tandem with what you said about you may not think you have dreams, but if you set the intention, I almost guarantee if every single night you set the intention, something will trickle in. But yeah, I think you're absolutely dead on what you're saying. And then with the prompt, it's interesting because I've been still sticking with Justin Speller's Tap into the Light energy work. He does like group sessions, which is what I can afford.
Yes, many of you
have
met Justin, but he offers group healing sessions, tapintothelight.com. He's a good friend of mine, and he has also on Facebook, right? He has, is it Tuesday afternoons? He offers group sessions. Yes. And I think he does other ones scheduled as well.
Yes. And so my intent, and he always asks, even if it's a group, he says, like, put in the chat on Zoom what you want healing from. And mine was patience and peace of mind. Like, I think I am finding more waking life calmness because I am doing so much stress work on the other side in my dream life that I have found a lot of peace, but patience. So when you said the prompt was like pacing yourself, I am a Libra through and through. And so I'm also very spacey. So when it comes to the tools that I use, I literally have to use like my planner and one that gives me an alert, like ding-a-ling, it's about, you have an appointment to get to in 10 minutes, or even if it's something that I fully enjoy, like a book club discussion, I will have read the book far before the book club meeting. And then, so I just need these precision tools. Since becoming an entrepreneur a couple years ago, and left to my own devices, and as a Libra, always wanting to keep things balanced, like I can't just do the dishes. I have to do the dishes and do the laundry, and then, oh yeah, I'm making some tea over here, and then like, oh, the bathroom needs cleaning. So it's like all these spinning plates, which is never great to get something done. So I sometimes have to lock myself into the chair, and I want to do what's fun and like watch a show or read a book and not sit down and do the work that I need to do to build my portfolio as a copywriter. And then it's like, even though I know that's what I want to do, I have to, I think someone else said it, like set a timer. And then, but I'm the opposite. I have to set a timer and stay put, because meaning like you set a timer so you can walk away, but right. I have to set a timer so that I can stay put and not get distracted. So when you talk about Mercury in retrograde coming around, I get super excited because I am the opposite. My head is in the clouds. I'm the creative person, like you said, and it's hard for me to sit down and do the analytical, to sit down and crunch the numbers and say like, okay, where am I at? So I look forward to it now, knowing that shift. And I understand that there's always going to be issues with communication, like my tongue gets tied or the internet gets down on those occasions with communication in general and how we operate. But yeah, I always look forward to it, and I always find it a little too, like I want more time with Mercury in retrograde sometimes for me. But the other thing I was going to say is that the tool I have really started to use in tapping into my intuition is seeing the signs. So I it's been pretty dreary. I live in Minnesota, and the last couple of days it's been wonderful. It's been like 80 degrees, windows open. But I find my desk is in a room with not a lot of lighting. And so sometimes when it's dreary outside, it's dreary in my office. And so we had a big storm last week, and branches were falling like crazy. I didn't lose power, but it was clearly a branch needed to be cut down because it was on the wires. And I have been neglecting like my office space and getting jobs done. And when they came out to clear the branches, my internet was out. So the day that I chose to like work out, and I always had my stuff charged because I knew when they came out, I might lose power. Did not lose power, but I lost the internet. So I kind of lost the ability to write a draft digitally that I was working with. And I thought, and it was only me, it wasn't my neighbor. And I went out there and I was like, hey, did you guys cut the, the internet? And they're like, yeah, I think they did it on purpose. Well, so here's my thing is like, I took that as a sign and I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go to the library for the next 2 days. So I called to get my cable, my Wi-Fi hooked up, and they were like, oh, we can't get out there for the next 2 or 3 days. And I was like, 2 or 3 days. Yeah. I've had to work here and I'm motivated, but I was like, yeah, like change your scenery. Like you have the ability to go to the library. And that's what I did. And in fact, the internet changed. They had an early opening. So it was changed the next day. Someone came out and it was on. And I was like, okay, I see the sign. Like maybe I just need to change. Don't stop working just because your environment isn't great. Change your environment and continue to work. So yes, and like you said, hindsight is everything, but I definitely see the signs more and more. And I do ask for them, also being open to them. So that's a tool in my arsenal, as well as my, cell phone and my little watch, that even my watch tells me it's time to stretch. And I'm like, okay, let's stretch.
I love it. Yeah. Isn't it interesting how we all need these different things, for different motivations? Because I'm like you, I do sometimes need it to stay where I am because I'm feeling like there's so much going on. And I used to have I track in my routine record my habits, and I change them based on what I feel like I'm needing balance in. And I would put a little symbol that said 11 plus, and that just meant 11 minutes or more. I am going to sit down and write every day. And I don't have to write the whole 11 minutes. I just have to stay there and write something like hello and be there for 11 minutes. And then if there's nothing, I can feel really good about going to do something else. And over time, I didn't need to do that anymore, but it was that holding space for it that allowed the energy and the creative juices to show up at that time every day. And it became part of my habit. So I needed that for a long time. And then to Melanie's point, then it goes to the point where now I've been sitting here for 2.5 hours and I haven't eaten. I haven't done my workout. So yeah, it is interesting, the different things we need to keep us going. And we're lucky to have so many tools nowadays, Wonderful.
That's so true.
Well,
yes, that's where I'm
did
at.
anybody have anything to add to what Lady K said before we move on to Christy? All right. Well, thank you, Lady K. Always good to see you.
Me too.
Okay, the next person on my screen. Yeah, Jennifer, your camera's off, so I'm assuming you can't chat today. Christy, I didn't know you were an astrologer. Can you share with us how people can get a reading with you? Or are you just doing it for friends and privately?
You can go to estellechristy.com if you want a reading. It's my grandma's name was Estelle, so I took that on because she meant a lot to me. So
yeah, we share that in common as a spiritual mentor.
Oh, it's wonderful. Yeah, she was.
So how you been?
A nice feminist woman in the 20s. So very interesting lady.
That's awesome. Yeah, very interesting.
I'm great. Thank you for asking. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm here with you guys. This is one of my favorite things to do. So yes, thank you as always for always being here. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So I am terrible. Also, I'm in Melanie's camp at pacing myself don't do a great job. So I have to get into habits that I use every day. And you had mentioned that too, Devon. And the biggest thing for me with the habits is reevaluating those habits, which I don't do often enough to maintain the spaciousness for new things to come in, for the universe to bring me things, because I get so habituated that I'm going to meditate in the morning and in the afternoon and at night, at noon, etc., that sometimes I'm so caught up in checking the box rather than allowing the creativity and whatever the universe wants to bring me to come in. And sometimes that limits my creative space and my ability to accept those new things and have space for them to come into my life. So that's kind of important. And then I also do the carrot at the end of the stick thing to get myself to accomplish something like, you can have an ice cream cone if you sit down for 20 minutes and write, or you can go take a walk. If you do 40 minutes of work, then you can have 20 minutes of walk or whatever it is. So that's something that I use.
Yes, I like the carrot at the end of the stick too. I know some people, they need the carrot to be able to have the energy to go take on the stick. But yeah, I definitely resonate with that. And I think it is interesting that having these discussions, we see the way we all do have to review our habits, and we then bringing in kind of that spiritual side of, why am I so resistant to this? Because sometimes the resistance is you're just not really supposed to be doing it, but you have this belief you're supposed to be doing it. And other times the belief is that you can't really do it, so you're afraid, and that's the resistance. It's that you have to just push through it. And it's kind of everything that we have to face, whether it's eating healthy, working out, doing our job, or getting on camera, Yeah.
The discernment between the two is an interesting thing, I think, to think about. Like, am I resisting this because I really don't want to do it, at least for me? Or am I resisting it because it's a sign from my guides or my angels telling me it's not for you? It's always a question I have to ask myself.
Me too. I have to do it all the time. And then it, like you said, and Lady K was talking about like our past life stuff. We never know when there's something from the past where our ego is just trying to protect us. I mean, this really went badly last time, and we don't even think of it from that standpoint, that subconsciously there's something that from the past that is causing the resistance. So that's definitely why connecting and doing the work we do with our angels and asking, what is this? What is causing this? Because sometimes the angels will literally say it's your ego. You're getting it way too much in your mind about this. And then a lot of times when I think it is my ego, they're like, actually, no, I mean, you've kind of been there, done that. It's time to do something else, which is, then I'll feel relieved. That's another one right there, is relief. If I really think it's because, if I'm worried it's my ego that's just afraid, but I feel relief in my heart about the idea of not doing it, that's a different feeling from it being my ego. Because usually there's a little bit of guilt if my ego's involved. Am I not doing this because it's, my ego just doesn't want to. So that's another fun topic we could talk about at another coffee, I think, is just when do you know the difference? Because it really, and I think we have touched on it in past coffees, but that has always been interesting to me, when I will feel relief kind of out of nowhere. I didn't even know I was looking for relief. And when in the messages at the opening of today's coffee, one of the ones that was hitting me really loudly and clearly is, are you shouldering too many burdens? Are you taking on too much? Are you volunteering for things that aren't really getting you where you're going? And, and having to understand the difference between, you can still be on your path and you don't have to do it that way, and then feeling relief about that. So anyways, just kind of a tangent there that you reminded me, but really good point, Christy.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Did you have anything else you wanted to share with intuitive experiences or dreams or anything before we wrap up?
The only thing I would say is you can always put up a do not disturb sign before you go to sleep. Like, picture, if you're a visual person, sometimes I do that to get in my dreams if I need some really good sleep. I'm like, I'm not tonight. I don't want to work in my dreams, or at least I don't want to know that I'm working in my dreams. So I put up a little do not disturb sign. And also, I just started volunteering. I'm going to start volunteering with ions, which is really great. Melanie, you had mentioned like kind of some scientific studies. If you haven't checked them out, they're doing some really great work with, different experiences like meditation, telepathy, but they're taking a very scientific approach. So it's a great place to, if you're interested in reading scientific studies about this.
They do have
Cool.
so much information. Yes. Thank you for that. I love sharing resources on here too. And Kelly couldn't be here today. She almost never misses a coffee, but she was the one who first introduced me to ions years ago, because she and I both have a lot of mutual acquaintances that tend to come from a very scientific approach. And so it's almost like our tool in our back pocket when somebody comes at us with their really science, like they will not accept anything spiritual. And then you got this, and at least in your conversation, maybe you're not bringing it up, but and that's coming through in your energy and your words. You're like, yeah, but we also have these other tools going on. Have you heard of the Soul Phone project by Mark Pitstick? Yeah, there's a project, and I think I learned about it through ions, but I know that they are in communication. But it's a project that's been going on, I believe, at the University of Arizona. I know it's in Arizona. And I'm on his newsletter, and they've developed some really good proof of being able to connect with people who have passed away and get validation through like a digital signal that they are going to try to they're working towards turning into a keyboard, where literally the communication back and forth will pull out a message. And they've been obviously are doing a ton of research because they don't want to be seen as all smoke and mirrors. So, but about once a month, I'll get a newsletter with an update on that, what they've been experiencing. And if you're at all interested in that kind of stuff, there's a ton of podcasts out there where they're discussing the project. So look up the Soul Phone project with Mark Pitstick. And there's several other people on the project too, but that's just a good reminder there. It's a fun one to keep tabs on. So, well, did you have anything else, Christy? Before we wrap up? Well, thank you guys so much. It's always so lovely to see your faces. And even those who choose to just listen in, I can feel your energy. I'm always so grateful you're here. If you're watching this later, feel free to leave comments under the YouTube channel, or don't forget, we have the Facebook page, Coffee with Devon, where you can put messages. I'll try to be better about checking that. I'll admit I'm not always as good about getting on social media, but I will try to check on there. Usually I tend to see the YouTube comments faster, and I will try to get this up pretty soon if you want to go back and listen to the angel messages. And remember that the next online coffee is, what did I say now? My notes went away. May 10th, right? Yeah. So I will have that, of course, in my free newsletter. And until then, feel free to reach out to me. I love connecting with you. And as always, thank you for being here. And remember to take time every day to connect with the angels.